delaying a campaign commitment.
Just making this one change to this one piece of legislation isn't going to be adequate.
The Premier waiting to bring in rules to protect the unvaccinated.
CTV Edmonton, local breaking news with Aaron Isfeld.
The next session of Alberta's legislature begins tomorrow. The first led by Premier Danielle Smith. Joe Scarpelli joining us live now with more on what we can expect. Joe.
What we won't see this session is Premier Danielle Smith's bill to protect unvaccinated Albertans from discrimination. She says that needs a little more time.
Just making one amendment to one bill was not going to protect the rights and freedoms of citizens next time around. So we realized it had to be a much broader review of legislation, probably much broader changes.
And the Premier says she'll have a better idea of a pathway forward in a matter of weeks. Aaron?
All right, Joe, thank you. And as Joe just mentioned, Premier Smith referenced more work needs to be done before any human rights protections are introduced for the unvaccinated. Tyson Fedor has more on what action the Premier is taking to try to fulfill that promise.
They have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime.
She later walked back that comment, Premier Danielle Smith promising protections for the unvaccinated. But ahead of new government business this fall, those protections are not there.
It's affordability, it's access to health care, and defending Alberta from Ottawa.
Government House Leader Joseph Scow was grilled on why the government left out changes to the Human Rights Act.
I think that question is actually best directed to the Premier.
So, Premier Smith was asked. She says following conversations with caucus, now was not the time to move forward.
Didn't want to do this as a bit of a slapdash measure. When we're passing legislation, we have to make sure that we're passing it that's going to be able to stand the test of time for future issues rather than trying to relitigate ones in the past. I think my supporters will understand why it is that I've made these decisions.
One health law expert believes Smith's promise was politically motivated.
It seemed to be largely designed to appease her political base rather than addressing an actual problem faced by Albertans.
But the Premier says instead of changing the act, her government is calling businesses that receive tax dollars, including film crews, to reconsider their vaccine mandate position or see that money possibly evaporate.
The Arctic Winter Games wanted $1.2 million from us to support their effort, and they were discriminating against the athletes, telling them they had to be vaccinated. So we asked them if they would reconsider their vaccination policy in the light of new evidence, and they did.
The Winter Games says it received a letter from the province, but outlined it did not ask for the money Smith is referring to, just that it charges Alberta less than $50,000 for an annual membership. The event is in Wood Buffalo in February. The NDP says the threat of withholding funding is intimidation and harassment.
If you believe in science, if you believe in public health measures, your funding will be cut. You will be discriminated against.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.